I normally don't give in to peer pressure, but I feel like I had no choice here. At the end of 2015, I made a list about the 15 Mavericks in the Mega Man X series I hate the most. People really enjoyed that list and still do. And since then, I've gotten many requests for me to do the opposite. Well, you guys better be happy because I finally cracked. While there are plenty of Mavericks in the X series that are bad, most of them are pretty awesome. So I'm finally going to talk about the 15 Mavericks that rock the most. Same major rules as my worst Mavericks list. I'm including at least one Maverick from each game for fairness. Well, it's time to complete this mission. Let's roll! Oh man, I really gotta talk about this game again. You all already know how I feel about the atrocity that is Mega Man X7. But in the spirit of being fair, I had to find something to talk about in a positive manner, as hard as that is. For all the problems and horrendous decisions this game made, I can at least say that Soldier Stonekong actually isn't that bad. Is he a good Maverick? No, but out of the roster in X7, he definitely has the fewest problems. His design, while rather basic and a bit bland, isn't too bad. I mean, when working with a gorilla there isn't much, but it's okay for what it is. As for his stage, it's actually tolerable because it's entirely in 2D. See, Capcom, if you just made the entire game like this, oh forget it, why am I even bothering? The stage goes through a jungle, and while nothing spectacular goes on, it's okay. The music isn't too shabby, and you can grab the leg part for X, which lets him glide, which is an okay ability. His fight is also pretty decent, once again confined to a 2D space. He'll mainly try to rush you and deal damage with either a tackle or a sword. He can also launch a shield that'll circle around the battlefield and jump onto a pillar in the center of the arena to drop a giant boulder that splits in half, which can be a bit tricky to avoid. It's a fair fight, and in the realms of this game, it's probably the closest thing to a fun fight. Although, I wish I could speak more highly of his weapons because they're just terrible. Zero gets a defensive stance that's only really good to make salad out of a stupid onion, but the Rock Shield X and Axel get, and even the charged version just don't do much at all. But Stonekong himself isn't too bad. Maybe now I can finally stop talking about this game. I may not think Mega Man X2 is a very good sequel, but calling it a bad game is selling it super short. For all its issues, it actually had some really solid level design, and while its roster was never going to be a match for X1, when it shined, it really shined. Case in point, Flame Stag. This Maverick is so hot, he's cool. Or is that the other way around? Bad jokes aside, this Maverick is pretty sweet. I mean, he's a deer with fire for antlers. How is that not awesome? His stage is also really neat, taking place in a volcanic area. You got these beetle robots that destroy walls, well-placed enemies throughout, collapsing pillars, a killer music piece, and an escape out through a volcanic shaft with lava that for some reason is an insta-kill. We take those. Although, his fight really isn't all that impressive. He'll jump around for a majority of it and occasionally shoot fire and attempt to rush you when he's on the ground. He's really predictable and super easy. The weapon you get from him is actually pretty solid though. The Speed Burner has good power, and when charged, you can rush your enemies like a meteor. This is one hot Maverick for all the right reasons. Rock on, dude! Like I said on my worst Mavericks list, I don't hate Mega Man X6. I enjoy this game as a guilty pleasure. It has a ton of glaring issues, but for some reason, I can't hate it. Unfortunately, when it comes to picking a good Maverick, this roster falls very short. But at the very least, Commander Yammark is a part of it. Out of the rather poor roster in X6, Yammark definitely sticks out the most. His design for one is pretty cool, based off a dragonfly, i.e. the coolest insect ever. I'm not biased, what are you talking about? His stage is probably the fairest stage in the game. Not gonna say it's perfect, got one too many leaps of faith for my taste, but most of the time, any death will be your own fault. Aside from that, it has a pretty nice aesthetic and easy to nab armor piece and some pretty cool enemies. His fight, on the other hand, is really fun. He'll spend most of the fight in the air, shooting orbs from his robo dragonflies that can also block your shots. However, he does this in a pretty tactful way, so the fight is less of a war of attrition and more of a test of skill, like a boss should be. As for his weapon, it summons a trio of robot dragonflies that fire when you attack, making it a really solid defensive weapon. I just wish more Mavericks in this game had this level of polish. One of the reasons I hold X8 in such high regard is because it had some of the most creative ideas in the series. While some of the ideas didn't work out so well, when they work, they really work. And it's from those great ideas we got a Maverick like Gravity Antonion. While his design is kinda basic, that's not the star attraction here. His stage is centered around one gimmick, gravity manipulation. All throughout the stage there are switches that flip the gravity in the room. For how simple an idea this is, it's put to fantastic use. The switches are placed in manners that'll easily get you killed if you're reckless and offer clever ways of hiding secrets. His fight also takes great advantage of this idea. He'll go all over the walls and ceiling throughout the fight, attempting to drop and throw blocks and attack with a powerful sword-like attack. His overdrive has him drop several blocks in succession, and he'll create a gravity field in the second half of the fight that absorbs your shots. His weapons are also pretty decent, being a strong overhead slash, a shot that penetrates walls, and a gravity bomb. Definitely one of the most creative Mavericks in the series, Gravity Antonion is certainly not going anywhere. Like I said previously, I find Mega Man X5 the underdog of the series. While it definitely has plenty of issues, the Sigma stages can screw right off, I can still find a ton to admire about this game. While the Maverick lineup was only okay overall, it definitely had some shining stars, like Izzy Glow, who literally shines. Jokes aside, this Maverick is pretty sweet. His design is kinda basic, sure, but for what he's supposed to be, a Firefly, it works well. When talking about his stage, there's a lot of good things. You start off in this area with mashy spike blades, then go into the spiral staircase from Split Mushroom stage, right before a pretty easy mini-boss, and deal with energy shooters on the home stretch. The stage constantly keeps you alert, and I love it. His fight is also pretty sweet, being the perfect level of challenge. He'll teleport around the battlefield, shooting remote control fireflies, and occasionally shooting lasers from his butt. Only a Mega Man X, people! The weapons you get from him are solid overall. X gets a controllable firefly, which can be charged to shoot a laser, and Zero gets his Giga attack, which is always nice. Nothing about this Maverick is dull, and that's how I like it. One thing I noticed when making this list is that there are a ton of fantastic insectoid Mavericks. If you don't believe me, this is the 4th Maverick in a row based off an insect, and really, Blast Hornet is all the buzz. His design takes the typical Hornet, supersizes it, and adds a gun. How is that not awesome? I didn't think so. His stage is set in some sort of radio tower. There are plenty of tricky and tough enemies, conveyor belts that'll kill the reckless, and even a ride armor to find. His fight can be tricky. At the start, he'll shoot robot hornets in groups of 5 and dive bomb you. But once he's at half health, he'll switch tactics. He'll float above and shoot a reticule that sends hornets after you if it hits. Your best bet is to destroy them quick, otherwise... No, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! As for his weapon, the parasitic bomb is a bomb that latches onto small and medium-sized enemies and disables them before blowing up. When charged, it gives you an army of Robo Hornet, making it a reasonably solid defensive weapon. All in all, this Maverick is a blast! Hornet. Okay, I'll stop. Would you look at that, yet another insectoid Maverick. But really, Magna Centipede has gotta be the best of the bunch. His design is a ninja centipede. I repeat, a ninja centipede! You'd have to be pretty wrong in the head to not think that's awesome. The stage is really creative, starting off with a well-designed stealth segment, followed by magnetic blocks they have to avoid, and a mad dash through an area with goop that solidifies quickly, leading up to a mini-boss that gets stronger depending on how many times he got scanned in the previous area, so try to avoid the scanner as much as possible. When you get to the multi-legged Maverick, he certainly doesn't go down without a good fight. He'll disappear and reappear all over the battlefield, shooting bits of his tail in multiple directions that close in on you, arrays of shurikens, and try to draw you towards him. If he grabs you, he'll debuff you. First you won't be able to charge your shots, then you'll only be able to fire at molasses speed, then you'll be unable to dash, then be really heavy, so don't let that happen. Unfortunately, his weapon is kinda mediocre. The Magnet Mine shoots a super slow explosive that sticks to surfaces, but it's only really good for taking on the snail. Regardless, this Maverick is perfectly polarized to place here. And now, a documentary on what makes a Maverick good, done by my friend, Soul.
When attempting to judge a Maverick, you must first look a clear example of a Maverick done right. In this case, we look at the Skiver. As you can see, his design immediately sticks out, obviously being influenced by the mythical Pegasus, being eye-catching but not too hard on the eyes. His stage is obviously set in the sky, as Pegasus tend to roam with many bombs that you must shoot before they explode. and yet the bombs do not explode when shot and destroyed, because logic. His stage also has several elevators that you ride down and up to navigate, and a piece of the Gaia armor. When you reach this fabulous creature, he puts up a fight that is both engaging and properly challenging. He'll fly all over the battlefield, attempting to rush you from multiple angles, shooting temporary clones and trying to nail you with powerful uppercuts that will send you flying. You can do this fight honestly, or you can cheat and use Dark Hold to put him completely at your mercy. His weapon matches his theme, being a whirlwind that is fantastic at taking down enemies in the air. All of these factors make the Skiver a fantastic maverick, so if you want to judge a maverick, this would be a good comparison to use.
Yeah, I finally get to talk about the game that started it all. Despite being the first of the series, it still managed to be widely considered one of, if not the best by most fans. And its Maverick lineup is absolutely superb, with one of my favorites being Spark Mandrill. I don't understand why people don't talk about this guy more, he's so awesome! I mean, his design is basically Robo Rafiki, how can you not love that? His stage is simple, straightforward, and awesome. They're well-placed enemies, an interesting mini-boss, pro tip beat Storm Eagle first and he's a joke, awesome music, and just an overall fantastic feeling of fun. When you get to him, he can actually put up a bit of a tricky fight. He'll climb on the ceiling and try to drop down on you, let loose electric spheres, and deliver a punch strong enough to shake you off the wall. Or you could be that guy and stun lock him to death, but that's no fun. As for its weapon, it shoots electric shocks that travel up walls, perfect for enemies stuck to walls. It's not a shock that the Mandrill is this cool, that's why he's here after all. If it isn't obvious, I have a massive amount of appreciation for the underdog in anything. I mean, I greatly enjoy Mega Man X5 despite its issues, and for Mega Man X8, my favorite Maverick is without a doubt Avalanche Yeti. Just like Spark Mandrill, it baffles me as to why nobody talks about this Maverick and how awesome he is. His design is essentially Frosty on Robo steroids, and that is pretty cool. His stage is a ride chaser stage, and manages to be both fun and unique. There are plenty of enemies to shoot down, some tricky jumps to make, and an alternate path to take if you can make it. What's also really cool is that each of the Hunter's chasers reflects them in how they attack. X being able to charge his shots for more power, Zero shots being short range but very strong, and Axel having rapid fire shots. When you get to him, he can put up a pretty tricky fight. Throughout the fight, he'll hide in the snow and try to get the jump on you, though unlike Wheel Tedium, he only stays under for a couple seconds at a time. He attacks with an Icy Shoryuken and a rush that'll freeze the Hunter if it connects, requiring a tag out. His overdrive has him shoot massive snowflakes that descend slowly, giving you another thing to worry about. And he gets some of the coolest weapons in the game from him, pun completely intended. Like I said, definitely the underdog in X8, and I love him so. Well, ain't this a shock? Yeah, Magma Dragoon only made number 5 on my list. I'm just as shocked as you. Now before you go up in arms and start grabbing your torches and pitchforks, let me explain my cause. I absolutely love this Maverick. His design is based off a dragon, and if you know me at all, that'll instantly win me over. His stage is also one of the best the series has seen yet. It's well crafted with the perfect enemy placement, lava that's a proper challenge, and a super fun ride armor to take advantage of. Not to mention, his fight is really fun. He fights like a Street Fighter character, attacking with Hadoukens and Shoryukens and even calling them out by name. He'll also shoot a massive lava stream and call down meteors to strike down. It's a great fight on its own, but he can even bring in the ride armor, and while it makes the fight easy, it becomes 10 times more satisfying. Also, his weapons are superb, both being anti-air fire weapons that I get a kick out of using. If I love him this much, why is he only number 5? Well, I just like the next 4 Mavericks more. Plain and simple. When discussing the best Maverick from the first Mega Man X game, most people's opinions have a common denominator, and it involves a certain blue mechanical eagle. Yeah, basically everyone else when I say Storm Eagle is my absolute favorite X1 Maverick. But really, he's earned his reputation and the attention he deserves. That design just screams, come at me bro, and I also love Birds of Prey, so instant win right there. His stage is also my absolute favorite in the first game. It takes place in an airfield with moving platforms, floating platforms with flamethrowers, the helmet upgrade which you'll only ever use twice maximum, and one of the best music pieces in all of gaming. As for his fight, it's a bit easy, but super fun. He'll try and blow you off the platform you're standing on, and when he's not doing that, he's dive bombing you or sending baby robot eagles to attack you. Okay, I won't deny it, that's just wrong. His weapon is also fantastic. The Storm Tornado shoots a tornado that goes across the entire screen, shredding anything in its wake. Like I said, this Maverick has earned his reputation, and I'm one of the followers that will help defend it. The Magma Dragoon isn't my favorite Maverick in X4. Begs the question of who actually is. Well, about that. Yep, I said it. I like Storm Owl more than Magma Dragoon. This Maverick right here does everything in an outstanding way. His design, based off the obvious bird of prey, works so well with the wind motif, and the Air Force getup just makes it look even better. His stage takes place on some sort of massive fleet. There are giant lasers to avoid, an absolutely pathetic mini-boss, and the absolute best ride armor in this series. This is definitely one of my favorite stages in this series, despite being kinda short. This fight can be really tricky if you're not prepared. He'll spend most of the battle in the air, attacking with orbs of wind, feather shots, dive bombing you, unleashing massive tornadoes, and then letting loose a storm of cyclones for his most powerful attack. He focuses heavily on attacks that you need to be quick and precise in order to avoid, and overall, it's a fantastic fight. And after all said and done, you get some sweet gear. X gets the double cyclone, a fantastic anti-air weapon, and Zero gets the ability to slash energy projectiles out of existence. What else can I say? This bird of prey certainly ain't anyone's prey. Sometimes, a Maverick is more than what they seem or has some surprises waiting in store. Crawfish is a little bit of both in my eyes. Looking at his design, which is pretty sweet by the way, you probably expect him to be the obligatory water Maverick, but you'd be sorely mistaken. His stage instead takes place in some sort of shipyard. You get the chance to take a ride armor for a spin out of the gate, tough yet completely fair enemies to contend with, and a trek through a submarine, which you then probably flip over because what else are you going to do with your time? As for his fight, he will shred you if you're not careful. He'll move back and forth across the battlefield, attempt to grab you in his massive claws, shoot said claws as projectiles, launch shots that weigh you down, and when his back is against the wall, he'll throw his back against the wall for massive damage. I mean, that has got to hurt! And from that, you get one of my absolute favorite weapons, the Spinning Blade. While having absolutely nothing to do with the Maverick, it's a fantastic point-blank weapon and can be charged to unleash a literal yo-yo of death. The Maverick with the most surprises in store just barely missed out on the top spot. But let's not stall anymore. Who's number one? My number one favorite Maverick might actually surprise you. Yep, I went there. Toxic Seahorse is without a doubt my favorite Maverick in the series. This one Maverick aces everything a Maverick should do right. Here, let's run down the list. Design. He has a majestic and colorful design that really makes him stick out and is super memorable. Stage. This stage takes place in a sewage plant. There are plenty of tricky enemies to see, a neat secret here and there, a really well made water section with multiple ways to go about it, and a super clever and interesting mini-boss despite being a complete joke. Whenever I replay X3, this is the stage I always look forward to the most just for how varied it is. Fight. His fight is also one of the best I've seen, being the perfect level of challenge. He'll jump all over the battlefield shooting orbs of acid that drip as they bounce off the walls, and when his health gets low, he'll start shooting bouncing blobs and melting only to reappear moments later. While he has fewer attacks, they can be tricky to dodge in and of themselves, constantly keeping you alert. And in the end, you get a pretty sick weapon in the Acid Burst, which is powerful and the splashing effect gives it great range. Well, let's look at that report card. Like I predicted, perfect marks across the board. I can't say anything else. This aquatic equine is my favorite Maverick in the series, hands down. I'm Arrow Dragon, and you know, making this countdown made me really excited for the Mega Man X collection coming up. Just remember not to play X7. Well, this highly requested list is done. Now you guys can finally shut up about it. I'm not sure what I'm gonna make next, but I will tell you it won't be for a little while because school's starting up soon. So until next time, this is Arrow Dragon, signing out.